What's a dark secret or questionable practice in your profession which we regular folks would know nothing about, not safe for work? Many hotels often sell rooms multiple times. Used to work in airport hotel, knowing that chances are some guests won't arrive due to missed or delayed flights, so we sell more rooms than we have. You have guests checking out from 2 to 3 a.m. due to early flights, so even though the room is technically still theirs, you quickly and sometimes poorly clean the room and tell the arriving unexpected guest or new bookings there's a random computer issue and to wait 20 minutes and then check them into the departed guest's room praying. Multiple times, I've had to run a kettle under a cold tap to hide the fact that the previous guest used it 15 minutes before the new guests arrived. Many bills are literally written by lobbyists or special interest organizations. I've seen my boss give bill language to a state legislator and then found the same language in print a few days later several times. The bill may change in committee, but usually not drastically against the original intent. Customs broker here. Every day, hundreds of thousands of containers and air shipments arrive into the United States territory. The volume of customs entries entered every day is staggering. When we get licensed to be a customs broker, we're trained and tested not just on knowledge but ethics. We even take a pledge to partner with the CBP to uphold the law and cooperate with them should we come across anything suspicious. Why so much emphasis on this? Customs can't actually screen everything coming in. I'm oversimplifying, but CBP basically works on the honor system. You file an entry saying what the shipment is, and they just take your word for it and release it. This happens hundreds of thousands of times a day. Maybe at best, customs can screen 3 to 7% of what's coming in. The rest have just waved through. Have you ever started filling out a form for a quote on something, insurance website, or literally anything, and then changed your mind and said, nah, I don't want to give them my personal information, and then abandoned the form before pressing submit? If you think that stopped them from getting your personal information, it didn't. Most companies looking to capture leads will capture your info in real time as you enter it into a form. The submit button is just there to move you to the next step, not to actually send your information to the company. At a very large pizza chain restaurant that remains widely popular, we had these perforated pans for thin crust and stuffed crust pizzas. They'd get washed in the dishwasher by the hundreds per day, and at least half would still have burnt cheese and shit on them. Well, they were just stacked to dry. When making new pizzas in those pans, sometimes the pans that were left to dry overnight grew bits of mold around the burnt cheese. We were told just to put the dough on top because otherwise we'd never keep up with the orders if we re-washed everything. The manager said, "Don't worry, it gets cooked." There is a problem in substance abuse treatment in the United States called body brokering. Substance abuse treatment can be very expensive, and insurance companies pay a lot of money for a patient to be there. Treatment centers will hire body brokers to find addicts with the best, highest paying insurance and entice them to check into the specific center. The treatment center then gives the broker a commission from the insurance money. This can go as far as body brokers literally putting more drugs into the hands of some addicts before they commit, because the higher level of drugs in your system upon admit, the more and longer the insurance company will pay to the treatment center. Brokers will also hire other addicts in a pyramid scheme type way to check into the treatment center, make friends with the other patients, and upon discharge, encourage relapse so they come back to treatment. I don't know if this is a total secret, but a lot of the talking points about how expensive lawyers are, or how plaintiffs' lawyers get unreasonably high payouts for doing little work, is driven by corporations trying to discourage people from suing them. For example, most plaintiffs' lawyers are working entirely on a contingency basis, meaning that they advance all costs with the risk of no reimbursement and don't see a dime unless they win, and almost all will give you a free consultation. But by spreading the false narrative of it's going to cost you to even talk to a lawyer about that, big companies discourage you from even consulting one and finding out the truth. Similarly, the narrative of plaintiffs' lawyers getting unreasonably high fees for cases is also designed to misrepresent the truth. For example, you hear a big company say, this class action got $2.50 for each person, but the attorney got $250,000 or something. But the only reason the attorneys got all that money is because the company went balls to the wall litigating over $2.50. racking up attorney's fees on both sides, when they could have short-circuited the whole thing from the outset by saying, "You got us, here's your money," and paid next to nothing in attorney fees. Plus, $2.50 times 1,000,000 people is a lot of money, meaning that the fees were justified by the total amount recovered, and that the case was not so insignificant to begin with. But, by controlling the narrative, companies make it seem like it's unreasonable to be mad that they stole millions from consumers, and that it's even more unreasonable for someone whose job it is to take on all the risk and then get paid based on a percentage of what their results are. Sure, there are windfall cases, but usually those cases are needed just to offset the 10 other cases where you took a haircut on fees. It's like putting $100 in a slot machine, losing 10 times, and then hitting one jackpot on your last turn to make it back to $100, and then having the casino say, "He got $100 for a single game of slots. This is ridiculous," until you're forced to give back $90 of what you won. How likely are you going to be to play again? There's a lot more to this, but the TLDR is that companies are projecting when they paint lawyers as greedy and do so in order to minimize the chance that they get called on their bullshit. Services costs are based on how much money you look like you have. I'm a woodworker contractor. I come to your house. You tell me what you want done. My jumping off point is how much the market will bear. If I think you can afford a $4,000 solid oak bookcase, that's what I will quote you. I can make a cheaper version that I make less money on, but why would I do that? It's not that I'm just ripping you off. I'm selling you a better product, but in doing so, I make more money. So when getting a quote, it can pay to be very direct about what you want to spend, or you are going to be sold the most expensive version they think you can afford. I work at a theme park, and we use codes with numbers for a situation that could happen in the park to not create panic. We also use codes for some category of people, like a code 25 means there's a fire, code 20 is for mentally disabled people. We also use hand signals sometimes for some situations. Documentary editor here. This varies depending on the content or genre, but documentaries can never be completely true. The ethics of filmmaking is disputed among many theorists. Those who work on documentaries understand that they are almost as fictional as completely made-up stories. Again, this depends on the project, but some common practices like frankenbiting, splicing sentences and words to create a different message, used especially in reality TV and really dramatic docs, are necessary to making a documentary watchable. There are hundreds of hours of footage, and if you see or hear something in a documentary, the creators wanted you to be exposed to that over a different piece of footage. This can lead to lives being destroyed, whether a person is posed as the enemy or antagonist, or they are displayed in a way that does not represent them accurately, which is most, if not all, of the time. I've had to take mental health days off from working because I become so worried about how these people's lives will be affected by my decisions. Some stores that sell used merchandise like video games and movies will pay you money for stolen stuff even when they know it's stolen. It doesn't hurt them to get brand new games that were only released hours ago for a fraction of the cost. Then they turn around and sell them for $5 cheaper than a copy. They're getting brand new, never opened $60 games for a few bucks and making a huge profit. I used to work fast food, not gonna say where. Every single person I work with had tried marijuana, but that's lame, so let's take it up another step. In reality, the majority of people come here for work because we have nowhere else. Either we grew up in poverty and never had a chance to go to college, we commit crimes in our youth that we regret, or struggle with drugs and alcohol. In my Northwest state, a raise from minimum wage to $10, like we got because of the virus, we're essential workers and are rewarded for working in a crisis. But when you go to a fast food restaurant, just think about why we're there. Yeah, we made mistakes. Yes, we're facing consequences, but they aren't bad people. My coworker, who was an ex-cartel member with face tattoos, was nicer than most of the elderly white customers I met. He's twice the man as many people I've met. The people here are coming for a second chance. Please let us have it. Our athletics department has a strong-armed financial aid into finding money for athletes who have sub 2.0 GPAs, are constantly busted for drugs, and get in trouble all the time, which leads them to being ineligible for athletic money. But we want to keep them on the team, so they find other money to keep them here. I used to manage an Asian supermodel for about 5 years. I was frequently brought along when she met with other celebrities, usually Western, sometimes other Asian. I was still teaching her English, as I am native and I am fluent in her language, to ensure she understood everything and didn't make any major cultural faux pas. I don't know if this qualifies as dark per se, but questionable for sure. I won't name names, but many of these actors, musicians, etc. also have other businesses and brands. They would sit down and offhandedly formulate what fashions or trends they would start soon so that they could have goods waiting to be sold to accommodate people participating in these trends that they themselves started. They would also plan out propping each other's businesses' plans up by reinforcing the trends with appearances, comments to fashion magazines, etc. The first time I heard this kind of talk, I thought they were just being full of themselves, as they were very prone to do anyway. And then I saw the effects of the talks happening a few months later, over and over. This is what we'll have people wear in the fall. Started production yet? Next week. Send me the samples when it's ready. I'll make sure my demographic is on it. Your concert in New York City is in June, right? Yeah, I'm a medium. Here's my manager's number. She'll make sure I get it in time for the show. When you order pizza, if you have unpopular or toppings that are not picked often, you are most likely eating a mixed bag of fresh and spoiled ingredients. Due to pizza kitchens having to refill the toppings container every week, if the management does not force the kitchen staff to empty them out and clean them, you will end up eating rotten and rancid meat and vegetables.